like this. رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. رب ارحمهما رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. رب ارحمهما. The greatest empires have turned to sin, and one day we'll all be joining them. Pray you stay firm, hope you stay calm. Pray you always learn from the best of mankind. By the time you learn to love, you'll have to learn to lose. Soon one day I'll be leaving you. But hold on tight like you once did. When you get a chance, say and pray like this. رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. رب ارحمهما رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. رب ارحمهما. Worship your Lord, and He is one. Honor your parents, you'll be honored in return. Your Lord sees all, so be amongst them just. Offer all your prayers from dawn to dusk. This life is intense, so strive to be your best. Be patient in this life, it's the key to the next. Keep pride out your heart, live life like a guest. Good character is what our prophet came to perfect. By the time you learn to love, you'll have to learn to lose. Soon one day we'll be waiting for you. But hold on tight like you once did. Hope your little ones say a prayer like this. رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. رب ارحمهما رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. رب ارحمهما رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا. رب ارحمهما.
Ladies, are you concerned about your health and well-being? Then the Al-Ansar Cancer Support Group's annual Cancer Awareness and Chai Day is for you. Dynamic speakers, an awesome tea garden, lucky draws, free blood pressure and sugar checks, free entry. Join us on Saturday the 25th of October at the Al-Ansar Hall, 189 West Road, Overport, from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Let's unite to fight cancer's might.
Under the stars, I raise my hands in prayer. Tears falling, carrying my despair. Your memories linger, they fill my heart with grace. In every shadow, in every vacant place. Oh Allah, grant me strength to mend. I hope the angels look over you, my friend. Inshallah, we'll meet again in Jannah, where there's no end. You smile and laughter echo deep within. Though we're apart now, you can count on me, my friend. In the gardens of the merciful, we will reunite. Under His mercy, bathed in eternal light. Oh Allah, grant me strength to mend. I hope the angels look over you, my friend. Inshallah, we'll meet again in Jannah where there's no end. So I'll hold on to hope and I'll hold on to faith to see you in Jannah. I'll do what it takes. Oh Allah, grant me strength to mend. I hope the angels look over you, my friend. Inshallah.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to our listeners on this beautiful Saturday, 20th of September 2025, Islamic Day 27th Rabiul Awal 1447 on Radio Al Ansar 90.4 and Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM. I'm Shabnam Ismail on the Pietermaritzburg Pulse Show, capturing the heartbeat of our community. May Almighty Allah's mercy and blessings be upon us as we engage on a meaningful conversation and reflections. Welcome to today's show, where we'll be discussing a topic that's both personal and powerful: cervical cancer, a disease that affects thousands of women worldwide. Cervical cancer is the leading cause of cancer related deaths in women. But today we are not just talking about the facts and figures, we're sharing stories, experiences, and hope. So let's strive to learn from each other and cultivate a deeper understanding of our faith and its relevance in our lives. Joining me is an expert who will share her insights and perspective on this complex issue. We'll explore the latest research, treatment options, and coping strategies, as well as the emotional and psychological impact of cervical cancer diagnosis. From screening and prevention to treatment and survivorship, we'll cover it all. Our goal here today is to educate, inspire, support those affected by cervical cancer, and to raise awareness about the critical health issue. So let's get started on this important conversation. Today we are featuring Sthabile Mtolo, a dedicated clinical social worker specializing in oncology and palliative care. Good morning, Tabile, and thank you for joining the Pietermaritzburg Pulse Show.
Morning, Shabnam, and the listeners out there. It's really great to be part of the PMB Pulse show this morning.
Wonderful. We are crossing over to our Durban studio. That's where my guest is based. And I hope that it's going to be fruitful and inspiring. So Tabila shares with us her 10 years of experience and a passion for research with making a difference in the lives of those affected by cancer. So cancer affects millions worldwide. Education is key to prevention, early detection, and effective treatment. Our conversation with Tabila will explore the importance of holistic care, including emotional and psychological support in the face of adversity. So we'll discuss the role of clinical social workers in the field of medicine with cancer care and the impact of cancer on families and communities, and the need for increased awareness and education. We'll examine the importance of cancer education, support systems, and resources available to those affected. Our goal here is to inform you, inspire you, and most importantly, empower you, our listeners, to take control of your health and well-being. So let's tune in on this thoughtful and informative conversation this morning on the highlights of the human side of cancer care. So Stabile, tell us, how does cervical cancer diagnosis affect one's mental health?
Again, as I greet the listeners out there, so cancer diagnosis on its own is very daunting. Hearing the words that you have cancer may just affect your mental health. It most of the time does affect your mental health. Cervical cancer does tend to be the worst because it has to do with the body, it has to do with the physical, it has to do with the biological part of things. So there's fear and anxiety. That's how your mental health will be affected. Fear of death or pain. So meaning that now that I've been diagnosed with cervical cancer, cervical cancer, does this mean I'm going to die? If I'm not going to die tomorrow, but does it mean that I'm going to get treatment? Is there anxiety of the pain that comes with having cervical cancer? And then, like I said, there is treatment related anxiety because there's different treatments for cancer. So a patient would not be sure which one that they're going to get and how it's going to affect them in terms of the potential side effects of the treatment. There's things such as shock and belief. Like I said earlier on, hearing the words that you have cancer can be daunting. So there's that initial reaction where it can be overwhelming for you. There's feelings of shock and disbelief. There's where realization that one has cancer and it can create a sense of vulnerability, confusion about the future, and not being certain of what's next. There's things such as depression. Basically, you're feeling hopelessness and you're feeling less. There's an emotional burden of having to deal with this serious illness, and there's a whole loss of normalcy. So not being sure what is normal, what is not normal. How are you supposed to go about the diagnosis? And so there's quite a lot that we're still going to discuss as we go into the to our discussion during this hour. But there is a lot that the diagnosis does affect the mental health part of things.
Emotional reactions. Can you actually tell our listeners what are the impact in terms of the self-esteem and the body image for one that's been diagnosed?
So, in terms of the body image, because as I said earlier on, cancer is something that affects the body, it affects the physical. So in terms of the body image, we're looking at it impacts the woman's body image and sexual function, and it often leads to reduced self-esteem, sexual anxiety, relational difficulties in terms of not being sure in terms of your relationship. For example, we've had patients where they would share that, well, now that I have cervical cancer, my partner is more withdrawn when it comes to being sexually active, or even just seeing me as a normal person, or they are more withdrawn and scared of touching me and so forth. So it does affect the physical, and it does affect the sexual, and it does affect the body image of the patient.
Anxiety and the diagnosis, the treatment process. Can you tell our listeners how can the depression side be managed during the treatment process?
So like I said earlier on, cancer diagnosis is a shock. So it's definitely going to increase your levels of anxiety and the way in which you think and feel. And therefore the support is very important. The support from family, from close loved ones, friends is very important. It's important for you as the patient, as the cervical cancer patient, to be able to talk about how you feel, because it can, like I said earlier on, it can cause a lot of anxiety. Most of the time you are anxious mainly because you're not sure of what to expect. So at least if you talk to someone, at least if you talk to a professional like a therapist, if you talk to a family member, if you talk to other people that have been affected by cervical cancer before, that does really help.
Opinion about the support groups. How is this impactful for helping the diagnosed?
So when we speak of support groups, we're speaking of a group of people that are going through similar experiences or similar challenges. In this case, would be a cervical or cancer, just a normal cancer support group. So these would be people that have faced or are facing or are going through the same thing. And these are people that would come together and share their different experiences. Most of the time, they would give each other advices, or it's just a group where you have people to be a shoulder to cry on. So that does really help, because a cancer patient does feel that, oh, at least I'm speaking to someone that knows exactly what I'm going through, or someone that has been through what I'm going through. Sometimes it does give you hope, especially if it's in the initial stages of diagnosis. It does give you hope as a patient to say that, oh, okay, so at least I'm speaking to someone that has been through this, and they are doing quite well today, but they did go through the different stages in terms of treatment and so forth, but they're doing quite fine today. So support groups are good in that, exactly that, support. The fact that you have people that you speak to, that you can actually express yourself to, and it's people that are actually have been through this journey and are going through this journey. So you share in terms of your different treatments, in terms of the side effects of treatment, but also you must remember that treatment for side effects in terms of treatment, just because Sthabile faced side effects of chemo where maybe, for example, her hair fell off, it doesn't mean that Shabnam will go through the same side effects. So it's basically in that group where it's basically where in that group different experiences are being shared, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it will go the very, very same way as it did to Shabnam, as it does to Sthabile.
No, obviously in my line of field work with obviously in the medical world, I do work from across quite a few oncology patients, and I'm sure you'll agree with me. It's all about assistance. And I hear what you're saying, that it's the team that supports you that gets you through, because there's so much that happens through your journey. And can you tell us a little bit about how mindfulness can play a role in managing stress and anxiety during treatment?
You important point there. You said acceptance. I've heard a lot of patients say this, that it's very difficult to accept a cancer diagnosis. So practicing things such as mindfulness, going for therapy, practicing the therapeutic skills such as cognitive behavioral therapy, and going for counseling does really help in terms of accepting, and also, yeah, it also does help in terms of the fears that you would be facing that come with having cancer. So having those mental health professionals that you go to does really make a difference for someone in terms of mindfulness and acceptance.
Correct. And obviously it's a shock being diagnosed. I mean, not just cervical cancer, which we highlight, but there's so many different types of cancers, and obviously the families, obviously hearing about your loved one being diagnosed. Can you highlight, as a social worker, your role in obviously getting their mindset in order, in accordance to support their loved one, and what strategic points you might have that they can embrace in order to walk this journey with their loved one?
Okay, so as a social worker, I get involved from the diagnosis stage, from the time that the patient has been told or been diagnosed with cancer. So this involves basically providing counseling and emotional support to the patient and the family, educating them about what it is that they're facing or what it is that they're going through in terms of the illness, and in terms of the expectations, in terms of treatment. It's basically, we call it diagnostic counseling, but it goes more on a deeper, and it goes more on an emotional point of view. Yeah, so it does really help to support the family, so that the family or the caregivers can support the patient in turn. I'm not sure if I'm still answering your question. No, it was quite loaded, but can you repeat the second part of the question, Shabnam?
Elaborate about caregivers. It's definitely a multidisciplinary approach. Your doctors diagnosed you. You obviously need to get home care. I mean, the treatment and the therapy that you're going for takes quite a lot of a patient. So, everybody plays a pivotal role. And if the family is supportive and you have the right network, I would assume that journey is much easier. Hey.
Yes, absolutely. Um, I would say it's more manageable, not necessarily easy. I don't think a cancer journey can ever be easy, but it is manageable. You cope much better when you know that you have a multidisciplinary team that's basically assisting you. When we speak of a multidisciplinary team, we speak of a doctor, a nurse, most of the time oncology nurse, a social worker like myself, and we speak of other different, like your caregivers and family, and the different resources that are available in the different communities. So it does really help the patient in terms of knowing that I have people that are concerned about me, that are trying to help me. So in a multidisciplinary setup, I'll just make an example. Let's just say, God forbid, I get diagnosed with breast cancer, and I will have, most of the time, or in the different oncology clinics, there would be a doctor, a nurse, a social worker, that are and other professionals like your spiritual counselor and so forth, that are basically going to help me through the journey. It helps in terms of when I have those questions that I need to ask that I'm not certain about in terms of my diagnosis. Having this group of healthcare professionals does help in that I can go to them and I can ask these questions, and I can get the help that I require.
We're going to take a short break, and when we return, listeners, we will be back in conversation with Sthabile Mtolo, who has vast experience with cervical cancer in her profession as a social worker.
Come to Simplex Radio. Visit our showroom for the full range of car audio Integra, Denon, Boston Acoustics, Yamaha, and more for quality audio visual experience. Now available, full range of home appliances. A one-stop shopping experience. Call 031 306 4029 or Kenilworth Park, 202 Brickfield Road, Overport. Simplex Radio, the name you can trust.
This Heritage Day, the stage is yours. Radio Al Ansar is calling on the bold voices, the visionaries, the change makers. If you've got an idea that can shape the future, if you've been waiting for your voice to be heard, now is the time. Join us at Monty's Convenience Store in Pietermaritzburg at 268 Ortman Road on the 20th of September at 2 p.m. Stand up, speak out, and be a part of the conversation that defines tomorrow. Radio Al Ansar welcomes your feedback. If you have a broadcasting-related complaint, please put it in writing and address it to the head of the complaints committee. Include your full name, contact details, a clear description of your complaint, and any supporting documents. You can email your complaint to feedback@alansar.org.za. That's feedback@alansar.org.za. Or bring it in person to our Pietermaritzburg office at 240 Ortman Road, Willowton. Your input helps us serve you better.
Durban, are you ready? The TBR Family 5km Fun Run and Walk hits the Blue Lagoon lawns on 11 October starting at 7 a.m. Experience the thrill of the scenic route, dash past the iconic Moses Mabhida Stadium, and soak in stunning views along the Durban Promenade. Then stick around for epic family fun and games, food trucks, prizes, and live coverage from Radio Al Ansar. Don't forget, bring along a new toy for kids in hospital and register online.
The Sunday Lounge with Salma Kazi Wahab. 10 to 12. Latest machines, celebrity artist solutions, events, music from the Nasheed world.
Radio Al Ansar, 24/7, 365.
Doctors and guests on a medical files program will help you with any medical problems you have by giving you advice on air. However, they do not have your full medical history and they have not seen you. Please verify the advice given to you on air with your doctor who knows you better. Neither the doctors nor Radio Al Ansar will be held responsible for any ill health caused by the advice given on Radio Al Ansar.
زينت السماء وضعت الجبال
أمرت البحار وخلقت الجنان سيرت الكواكب أضأت النجوم فجرت الأنهار فأرحت القلوب وللعباد أنزلت الإسلام وللهداية أنزلت القرآن وبالسلام أرسلت الأنبياء من الضلال إلى الضياء سألت حين رفعت يدي عن رحمة وسعت كل شيء بقلبي أشكو إليك لكنني من بما قضيت إن شئت قلت كن فيكون وسد عني كل الهموم أنت الكريم وأنت الرحيم أنت السلام وأنت السميع majestic and mighty, the King of the worlds, the Lord of creations and the heavens above. You're closer to me than my jugular vein. You answer my prayers when I'm hurt and in pain. And in return for worship and love, you give eternal peace beyond earth. And all around, you see all your signs. Hear every prayer, so here's mine. رحمة وسعت كل شيء في قلبي أشكو إليك لكنني من بما قضيت إن شئت قلت كن فيكون وسد عني كل الهموم أنت الكريم أنت الرحيم أنت السلام وأنت السميع حين رفعت يدي عن رحمة وسعت كل شيء في ضعفي ربي أشكو إليك لكنني راض بما قضيت إن شئت
And we are back. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to our listeners. On this Saturday morning, the weather is confusing me a little. Was said to be 30 degrees in Pietermaritzburg, but geez, it's actually raining currently. And we are radio on Star 90.4 and Pietermaritzburg 105.6 FM. I'm your host, Shabnam Ismail, on the Pulse Show, capturing the heartbeat of our community. So let's get back to our in-depth conversation about cervical cancer. We'll continue sharing powerful stories, discussing the latest treatment options, and exploring ways to support loved ones through this journey. Stay tuned as we dive deeper into this critical health issue and work together to raise awareness and support those that are affected. We have Sthabile Mtolo with us, who is going to make a difference and is currently making a difference in so many lives as a social worker. Good morning, Sthabile, and thank you so much for joining us on Al Ansar Show today.
Thank you so much, Shabnam. It's been good so far.
Tackle a very important question. What are some effective coping mechanisms for dealing with cervical cancer once diagnosed?
So mostly it does help to understand what you're going through. I've seen it help a lot of patients to have a deeper understanding of their cancer diagnosis. The support, like we mentioned earlier on, also does make a huge difference. And also Understanding that it is only a diagnosis and it doesn't mean that you're dying tomorrow. Cancer diagnosis doesn't necessarily mean that you're dying tomorrow. Yes, there will be a time that you're going to go through that stage, because you must remember, um, in life is a journey, and it does lead, or it does mean that at the end there is end of life. So when you're diagnosed as a cancer patient, most of the time the doctors will tell you the stage in terms of your cancer diagnosis stage. So if it is in the later stage, or in the not in the initial stage, they will tell you that, okay, look, this is what we can do in terms of treatment and so forth. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you are dying tomorrow. But it does mean that it may just be a difficult journey for you. So this means that having that understanding and having that support from the family, being able to speak about how you feel, being able to express yourself, being able to use communities such as support groups, as we mentioned earlier on, does really help to cope with the cancer diagnosis.
Medication very important, because once the patient's diagnosed, obviously doctor might say you need to go for chemotherapy and radiation therapy, and they will think, okay, I'm going to have hair loss and the side effects that go with it. Can you just clear for us what tips you would advise a patient in terms of mental health? If they are undergoing treatment, what can they do to try and build that resilience, I would say?
So it depends. It depends on the different types of treatments. For example, the treatment may just make you feel more tired and exhausted. I spoke about hair loss earlier on. There's your nausea and so forth. So how do you deal with this? Most of the time during the diagnostic counseling or the treatment counseling, the patient is made aware of the different side effects that they can look out for or expect. So when it happens, they are aware. Sometimes they are given medication to basically help them cope with the different side effects. So it's important, even when they are going through these side effects, to take the necessary medication, and also to rest. For example, when the patient is feeling tired because they've just completed their chemotherapy session, for example, it's okay for them to take a rest. It's okay for them to lie down. It's okay, because that's when the chemotherapy is doing its job in the system. So it's okay for them to lie down. It's okay for them to allow other people in the house or caregivers or family members to support and help take care of them, because obviously it's not going to be it's not an easy journey for them, especially in terms of the side effects of the treatment. So it's okay to let yourself go through the journey, to allow yourself to go through the journey. And on the days when you're feeling down and when you're feeling like you cannot do it, it's okay for you to let yourself be that way. And on the days when you are feeling like you can do it, and you have more energy, and you're able to get up, and you're able to wake up and make yourself that cup of coffee, and you're able to wake up and to get up and take that walk, or you're able to have those conversations with your family, with your friends, embrace those days.
I'll give you my details at the end of the show if you'd like to be a part of that workshop. Thabile, can you tell us what are the strategies for managing treatment with the side effects? So if the patient is not feeling well and they still need to go through the treatment process.
Shabnam, can you repeat that question? I'm not sure I got the first part right.
Some coping strategies for managing the treatment side effects.
Okay, so like I said earlier, most of the time the patient would be counseled during diagnosis and during the treatment side effects counseling, or they would be told what to expect. So like I said, it's important to allow yourself to rest and relax. The different cancer treatments like your radiotherapy, like your chemotherapy, they do have different side effects. So it's difficult to say what can you do in terms of to manage the side effects, because it's different treatment therapies, and it's different ways in which you can use to basically cope with those side effects. But the patients are counseled during diagnosis about this.
Strategies for rebuilding self-esteem and confidence after treatment.
So it depends, right? For example, if the patient is stage 1, stage 2, for example, and they complete their treatment and they are in remission stage, most of the times patients do say that they want to go back to their normal lives and they want to continue their work and so forth. Most of them also want to make a difference out there in the community. They want to go and raise awareness on cervical cancer, for example. They want to go and educate people. They want to open or start support groups. They want to use their experience of a cancer diagnosis to actually educate others out there, and also provide support to other people out there that may be going through something similar, or even those that don't have much awareness about what cervical cancer is. So I've seen that it helps the patients a lot, or the survivors a lot, to know that they have or they are making a difference with the experience that they have or have been through.
We are continuously judged by society, and obviously there's a younger generation of women and men being diagnosed of cancer, and obviously childbirth is such a beautiful experience, and obviously with cervical cancer that can pose a challenge. In your profession, have you had any patients that was diagnosed that obviously had the challenge of not being able to bear, and how did that obviously, what coping strategies, if I may ask you, did you help them with? Obviously now they have to represent to the family, and can you guide our listeners of what they can do to try and build that resilience and continue with their normal day-to-day life?
Yeah, so we do get cases like that where the woman feels less of a woman, or feels that they're not enough just because of their cancer diagnosis and how it affects their ability to give birth and so forth. It does help when the patient has good supports from home. For example, the partner understands the situation, and it's important also for the patient to know that, or to not blame themselves for what they're going through. The feelings of blame, guilt, and so forth, it doesn't help at all when a patient is going through such a challenge. So in order to build that resilience, it's important to understand what you're going through and have different strategies on how to cope, and ensure that you have good support at home, and also ensure that you go for therapy. Now, therapy is, I believe, the most important, because you will be sitting with someone that's not going to judge you, that's going to listen to you, and that's going to provide you with coping strategies on what you're going through. So those kind of things do help the patient that's going through a cancer diagnosis, or patient that has survived cancer. However, especially at palliation and end of life stage, you find patients that feel that they've lost their dignity, because of things like being more dependent on families, and knowing very well that they're approaching end of life. Patients, when they are not they're not counseled at an earlier stage, this time for them, end of life or palliation stage, becomes a very difficult time for them. So I think it's important for us as therapists, as social workers, as counselors, as the healthcare professionals with doctors, nurses, and so forth that are in the oncology and palliative care space, to make sure that we make the patient aware of everything to expect, and also to provide the necessary counseling and to provide the necessary support that they need. And not just the patient, as I mentioned earlier on, it's important to also provide the support to the family and the caregivers of the patient. So, yeah.
I know when you spoke earlier, you affiliated to so many different organizations and research and programs, which is really exciting. And I would like you to elaborate to our listeners some of these programs and research institutions and what you guys do behind the scenes to help empower the community, not only with cervical cancer. I mean, there's lung cancer, tumors, and different things. Can you just inform us?
Yes. So yeah, you're right. I'm affiliated with so many organizations. It's quite exciting. You must remember I'm quite young, so I still have the energy to do all all of this. So I'm affiliated with organizations such as MLCCP Sideru. It's Cancer and Infectious Diseases Epidemiology Research Unit, which is based at the University of KwaZulu-Natal. Our focus on the project that I'm basically working for right now is MLCCP. It's the focus is basically on lung cancer awareness, screening, and the continuum of care when it comes to lung cancer and other types of cancers. So basically, as a clinical social worker, I'm responsible for ensuring that all patients that we see at Inkosi Albert and Addington Hospital at the oncology are seen or are basically being provided the service for psychosocial support and palliative care services. I'm also affiliated with a multidisciplinary team or organization that is called Beacon of Care, which is in the north of Durban. This is a team of doctors, nurses, physios, dietitians, different healthcare professionals like your psychologists and so forth, that are basically involved in providing palliative care services to cancer patients and families, in terms of home-based care, in terms of counseling and emotional support, your occupational therapy, and so forth. I'm affiliated with the different cancer hospitals and oncologists, and yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot that we can do in the oncology space to make a difference. And yeah, so yeah, thank you.
Keep making a difference and keep shining. And with everything that you're doing, wow. And I'd like to find out from you, how do you cope with your mental health, knowing you're seeing the patient from inception of being diagnosed, probably see them through the stages? What can you tell me that you do to try and keep yourself above water?
I'm not going to say it has been easy. It's been challenging, especially because during COVID, I lost my sister to colon cancer. It was quite, yeah, it gets really, really tough, Shabnam. But for me too, just like it is for the patient, family support is important. Those around me, are really, really playing a huge role in me coping. I have been for therapy, and that has helped me a whole lot, and it's something that I will keep doing. It is an ongoing process. It never ends, and that really does help me. So it's the support, and I am one person that will talk about how I feel. I will express myself, and that really, really helps me to cope. So I have family and friends that I can go to basically express myself about how I feel. I mean, obviously, being thought or being mindful of things such as confidentiality, I can't really mention patients' names, but I'm able to share about how the different cases are making me feel. And in that way, I'm able to cope. And we also have our debriefing sessions with the different healthcare professionals that I'm affiliated with. That also really, really helps, because this is where we get to discuss the different cases, or not necessarily the different cases, but how a different case has made us feel or made me feel as an individual. It's not an easy space to be in, but it is very fulfilling. it is very fulfilling. It really feels good to know that you've made a difference in someone's life. Sometimes it's just being there to let them express themselves to you while you just hold their hand and just listen. Most of the time, cancer patients or people just want an ear. They just want someone to listen to them. They want someone to allow them to express themselves, because most of the time, I, as the healthcare professional, do not understand what the cancer patient is going through. I do not understand what that patient that is approaching end of life stage is going through. So sometimes I won't have much in terms of the words to say to make them feel better in any way. But me being there, listening to them is making a difference. Um, yeah, so I'll end it there for now.
As we wrap up today's conversation on cervical cancer, we want to leave you with a message of hope and empowerment. No one fights alone. To all the women out there who are facing this journey, know that you are not alone, you are strong, you are resilient, and capable of overcoming any challenges. There are resources and support groups in Pietermaritzburg. You can contact myself. I run some of those support groups in Pietermaritzburg. Look Good, Feel Better is one of them that I have run for the last 10 years. So please reach out to me and I can put you in touch with some of my support groups. Remember, early detection is key and regular screenings can save a life. Let's break the stigma surrounding cervical cancer and support each other in our journey towards healing and wellness. To every woman listening, we see you, we hear you, and we're here for you. Take charge of your health, prioritize your well-being, and know that you deserve to live a life free from fear and pain. Sthabile, thank you for joining us on this very important conversation. Let's continue to raise awareness, support each other, and empower women everywhere to take control of their health. Do you have any final parting words, and how can our listeners get in touch with your practice?
Thank you, Shabnam. So, like you said, it. I think patients need to know that they're not on their own. That we are. That is why we're here to basically support them, and they need not to walk this journey alone. And yeah, I am available. The name of my practice is Improved Wellbeing, Health and Wellness. It is not on social media as yet. I'm getting there. But I am available via phone, which is on WhatsApp. I am available, which my number is 073 075 4788. That is my work number, and available for any calls or any questions that patients or families or anyone out there that would like to ask. Thank you.
Everyone for tuning into today's episode of the Pulse Show. Don't forget to rise to connect with the live Al Ansar broadcast team at the Vibrant Heritage program happening today in Pietermaritzburg at the Monty Service Station 268 Otman Road from 10 o'clock onwards. Loads to eat and do. A huge shout out to my technician team. We've had a power outage, so we actually have had some challenges. Thank you for everything you do, Pietermaritzburg and Durban Al Ansar team. Jazakallah and Assalamu alaikum from myself, Shabnam Ismail. Inshallah, connecting with you again next Saturday. It's a wrap from me. Take care, be safe, safe travels if you're traveling this weekend.
Doctors and guests on a Medical Files program will help you with any medical problems you have by giving you advice on air. However, they do not have your full medical history and they have not seen you. Please verify the advice given to you on air with your doctor who knows you better. Neither the doctors nor Radio Al Ansar will be held responsible for any ill health caused by the advice given on Radio Al Ansar.
Radio Al Ansar, 24/7, 365.
An informative Islamic global perspective. This is Al Ansar News. Al Ansar